Gotta love it. Gotta love it. We are back again. Back again. We got a couple big stories for you tonight. Tonight is Friday, March 27th. Thank you for coming back again. Couple big stories. We have Abigail Spanberger currently being blamed for the Virginia Redistricting battle. We also have a, story, a very terrible story, kind of sad about Gen Z in general, kind of checking out. Who knew they were disengaged? Who knew? Everyone, literally. But I don't think they're totally to blame. And, I kind of wanted to go through that because I think there's still an opportunity to win, even with the current landscape, even with things as bad as they are. I think that the kids are gonna be all right, but we gotta be strategic. So anyway, we'll get into it. Abigail Spanberger. So the Washington Post released an article stating that basically her political future hangs in the balance. They say in no uncertain terms that they are blaming her for the ongoing redistricting battle in Virginia. They say that she pressed too hard in her first 90 days, and that's why voters are hesitant to cement a permanent majority for Democrats. You look into this, and I mean, you see who's funding these campaigns, who is funding the redistricting battle in Virginia, because it's not actually organic from within the state. Of almost $30 million raised, almost $25 million for the yes vote is coming from New York and Washington, D.C., and a $10 million donation, a $9 million donation, and a $5 million donation, respectively. And so they want to pin this all on Spanberger for a fight that she didn't actually ask for. And in 2020, she was actually in favor of the current commission. The current districting was done after a commission she voted for that she got passed as a Virginia legislator. So very interesting that now that the tables have turned, she's trying to go with the flow with her party, and now they're trying to basically just pin the blame on Abby. Kind of an unfair situation that she's in. And I keep playing the same drum. I keep talking about the exact same thing. If look at what's going on in Texas with redistricting and Virginia, the danger everybody keeps saying, if you redistrict, then all of the Democrats in Texas are going to be disenfranchised. All of the Republicans in Virginia are going to be disenfranchised. That is not true. All voters get disenfranchised under single party rule. All voters. You might as well have a monarchy at that point, literally. Or an oligarchy and an oligopoly. It's just, let me explain. Let me explain before I get too excited. Basically, every year in Virginia, every 2 to 4 years, depending on which race you're voting in, the Democrats that control the DNC are forced to compromise with their progressive wing. They're forced to compromise so that they can cobble together a winning majority. It is every single time. It's close in all of these districts, except for a couple of them. So they're forced to work with progressives. You have to ask yourself, do you really believe that the Democrats that are in control of the DNC, old money Democrats, these are Hillary Clinton type of Democrats, Pelosi type of Democrats, do you think that they're actually very eager to enact policies that are championed by like the typical leftists you see at these rallies? These are younger people with blue hair or very progressive, lots of nose rings, lots of hairstyles. Do you think that those old school Democrats are like super excited about these policies? Or do you think that they're at least willing to pay lip service and throw them some red meat every now and again so that they show up to the polls in November? I mean, honestly, one thing that the Democrats are incredibly good at, and this is true, they are good at finding ways that make appealing policies for progressives that turn out to be money laundering schemes to turn tax dollars into political donations. We see this in a lot of different organizations. Planned Parenthood coincidentally gets a lot of tax dollars and also make a lot of political donations. You see all of these things like Medicare fraud or hospice fraud, that these same organizations committing these frauds are also the same ones making political donations. It's not a coincidence. It's not an accident It's absolutely on purpose. Another thing that they are very good at is getting progressives to adopt policies that coincidentally funnel money into their donors. But a permanent majority means that the politics in Virginia just becomes a bidding war. And this is true with Texas the other way around. Same with the Republicans in Texas. We will get to that right now. The same with the Lodge Card Club getting closed. I was talking about this earlier today. If you look at the overlap for the guys who run the Lodge Card Club, I mean, this is Austin. It's a relatively Democrat city by all means, but these are the legal gambling guys. These are crypto bros and libertarians. So young Republicans, this is the Young Republican Coalition. And this coalition was needed so that Texas could keep from becoming a purple state. Like, this is the line that Texas needs to hold. They need to mainstream these libertarians and crypto bros if they want to keep the Democrats from taking over Texas, which was a huge threat in the last election. I don't know if you guys remember. But now, as soon as they get the stay, as soon as that redistricting looks like it's a lock, what happens? You get a raid into the Lodge Card Club on even the warrant is weak. You can read the warrant. It's been released. The only reason that they raided the Lodge was because of large cash deposits. It's a card club. They deal with large amounts of cash all the time. This is totally normal. Like, you can, in any casino in the country, you can go and take massive ATM withdrawals, and there's not a bunch of feds that are going into the MGM like on money laundering. This is a card club. They make money off of membership dues. This is a legal way to operate this type of business in Texas. And now there's 68 card clubs all across Texas that had multi-year legal battles, proving out this legal theory and getting it signed off by a judge that, yes, they can operate in the state under these parameters. And now, as soon as this redistricting battle is over, what's going to happen? And unfortunately, when you talk about any one of these two scenarios in a video, you get called either a dumb liberal or you get called a chud. Or, it's much worse, but I don't want to get banned off of lives again. And it's every single day. Every single day, if you talk about one issue, even if you just stick to the facts of what is happening, people say, oh, because you're talking about it happening, then you must like that it's happening. And the only point I'm trying to make is that redistricting, it is not in favor of you, the voter, unless you happen to be making $1 million donations to gubernatorial campaigns. And if that's the case and you're in my chat right now, I'm going to need you to send me some roses, send me some diamonds. I'm trying to make something happen here. And if you are a political donor and you happen to be watching this show, I'm going to need you to donate to this show right now. Or if not, just hit the like button, a whole bunch. Just as many times as you can until your thumb hurts a little bit. And then you can stop. Now, Texas citizens, they did launch a lawsuit to stop the redistricting. And it was a good deal. Democrats let's be honest about the demographic of who's launching this lawsuit. It's mostly Democrats, and they don't want to see their gains in Texas washed away. But there are certain parts of that of the coalition people that think like me that are also on board with stopping the redistricting. And people recognize that entrenched party leadership, that they're not going to be willing to compromise with the new generation unless they absolutely have to. And that's just a fact. But to me, the most glaring problem with this whole thing is that there was already a solution. Republicans came into total control of the three branches of government. They came into that with a solution they were already talking about. That was what the SAFE Act was supposed to do. It's in the Senate right now. And members of the Senate are vowing not to pass any legislation until they get a vote on this. And yeah, Democrats are threatening to filibuster, but you can at least get them on the record. You can at least get them on the record against a policy that 80% of voters support. And they won't even do that. And it's when you look at the facts, this bill, it does make it a little harder to register to vote. You have to go to a special location. You can't just register to vote when you get your driver's license. And God forbid, when on voting day, you actually have to get in your car and go vote somewhere instead of just collecting the ballot or mailing it in. And Republicans have claimed for years now, since Trump lost in 2020, they have claimed for years that something like this would mean that Democrats will never win an election again. And then you don't need to redistrict the entire country, right? That would just entrench Republican control throughout the country. There's no reason not to do it unless there is. Unless there is a reason. And the reason is the same one. They want the redistricting battles in all 50 states. Red, blue, it literally doesn't matter. Republican voters are quick to point out the Democrat states have the biggest problems with tax dollar fraud. But what states are already redistricted in this way? What states already have a cemented and entrenched majority? It is the same states we're talking about. And you don't think that John Thune wants in on a little bit of that action? Because look, everybody knows about the Auto Trader, like the Nancy Pelosi stock tracker. Everybody knows about this. But do you know who outperformed Nancy Pelosi last year on those same indexes? Dan Crenshaw of Texas, a Texas Republican, outperformed Pelosi on the same basis. It is the entrenched rule that they want, because as soon as you get that locked in, as soon as you do that, you just turn every political cycle into a bidding war for donors, and that's it. You just have a little auction for all the donors, and then you get to hand over your whole administration, and that is the main difference. But Texas redistricting, Indiana redistricting, Florida redistricting, none of that's necessary if you have the SAVE Act. At least that's what I was told. That's what I remember them saying. You don't need all these states to redistricting. The SAVE Act means that voters get to decide, that the voters get to decide from now on. Redistricting means that the donors get to decide from now on. That is why they won't pass it. It is that simple. And trying to explain this to somebody who is so locked into party politics, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm just being perfectly honest, like, if you go policy by policy on the things that I want and the things that I vote for, I can tell you that, like, if you were to just put it on a list, there's nobody that's calling me a liberal, period. Like, just like what, pro-life, like pro-gun, like constitutional carry pro-gun, like, I am a prototypical Republican voter, and yet if you just mention that, hey, maybe Texas made the wrong decision, then a bunch of Texans just call me a lib, and they just shut their ears off and go, no. I don't want to hear that this was a bad idea. And as a Republican, it's very hard to make this convincing case to Democrats that, hey, like, if you do this, you will never get your free health care unless it means that we're going to give $1 gazillion to insurance companies and they'll never pay out a cent when you get sick. Like that, because that is the logical conclusion. That is the only thing that it means when you have single party rule. It is a wrap. It's done. And I'm going to keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. Plus it gets my heart up. It gets my heart rate up. It makes me feel good. And, hopefully maybe enough people listen, maybe we can do something. I mean, apparently we're winning, right? It's like a 51-49 split. It looks like if this keeps going, Republicans will win this case in Virginia. They'll win the redistricting battle, even though they have yet to raise $1 million and Democrats have $30 million in their war chest on this battle. That's crazy, especially when you consider that, like, since Spanberger took office, since she won her race, 40,000 Republicans have fled the state. Now, who's to say? I mean, with mail-in ballots, maybe they're still voting, right? If only we had the SAVE Act, it could have stopped them. We're trying to trick Democrat politicians into backing the SAVE Act. I wonder if there's no way they're that gullible. But no, so I don't know. I'm really hoping. I'm hoping that democracy wins. That rational thinking wins. I grow more and more skeptical every day. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, hey, there's my boy. It's Esteemed Hams. He's back. I keep saying this all the time, but yeah, I'm just letting you know. For everybody that follows my page, when we hit 100,000 subs, then I'm gonna block everyone who followed me before Esteemed Hams, so it looks like he is the first person who ever followed me. That's the long-term play. If you guys get me to 100,000 followers, I'm doing it. So yeah, we're just gonna remove them all from the follow list, and he'll be the very first one, the very bottom when you go all the way down. That's my boy. No, so yeah, that end rant on redistricting, but I do have one more story of a very very depressing article I ran through, but I spent a lot of time thinking about it, a little time praying about it, and I think I figured out how we can win, how we can save Gen Z from nihilism. We can save them from themselves and make the country a better place at the same time. So this survey was it stated that 47% of Gen Z is planning on quitting their job, which is, if you're a young person just starting out your career, you're kind of trying to settle things in. So some of that has got to be just that they're just not feeling it, like maybe this isn't their forever home. And but 47%'s a lot, right? And when you actually dig into how the questions are asked and how they answered, they did not cite a lack of benefits. They did not cite feeling underpaid. We'll get back to that later. They did not cite feeling underpaid. And they did not cite a lack of community or a dissatisfaction with the job itself. The number one reason that Gen Z gave in this survey was that they felt they didn't have an opportunity to grow within their company. They felt like their career was stagnating and that they were just stuck in their job, which is almost exactly what I was talking about last night on the live, that these two CEOs stepped down, right? The former Walmart CEO and the former Coca-Cola CEO, they stepped down and they said that they had to step down because of all the AI tools that the company had taken on, AI tools that they forced the company to take on. And then they realized that they were not equipped to helm a company without a very thorough understanding of all of these AI tools. And now these lead roles and managerial positions quickly are going to get filled with AI assistants. Like already this is happening in places where people used to be able to move up, like jobs like purchasing and logistics and all these different roles, production manager, like that kind of thing. These are getting filled by AI assistants more and more these days. And even executive positions are at risk if these guys just step down. I mean, who's to say the next CEO isn't just a happy face, like, a communicator, and they're just reading off of AI prompts. Like on principle, I type these things up on my phone, right? I just type them up in my notes app all day. I don't AI generate this show. I need everybody to know this. I'm trying to be 100 with you guys. I type this up, I write these monologues, and then, I use it as kind of notes as I go. McKinsey and Associates can be replaced. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. Who knows, man? There's a human element. Maybe they're irreplaceable. Maybe we're going to find out that these executives are really important, that they really had such a strong influence on the company. And I believe that is true. I mean, some of these guys, they try and rationalize all these decisions, but a lot of the times they go off their gut. Yeah, and the AI hallucination thing is real. These companies, who's to say, like, I heard a joke the other day that, like, as all of these people are saying, like, the future is going to be like 6 AI trillionaires that own literally everything. But they said that before that happens, it's going to be like one Indian guy who figures out how to scam the AI and, like, just sucks up all, like, he just sucks up all the money in the world. It's just going to be like an Indian scammer. And that's going to be it. You see, I get carried away. This is how I get myself banned in TikTok lives. So, anyway, but as more and more of these doors are being shut, like the Gen Z, they actually are kind of right to be a little nihilistic, right? Like For a young person, like they're still bright-eyed about their career, they still kind of see that the world is in front of them, it's at their feet, like they have so much room to grow, and they think that they have all these fresh ideas and they're brand new, and they think that they have this influence that they can actually change a company, that they can change it for the better. And when you reach, when even for those ones that do get that opportunity, they get kicked in the teeth and they realize they rather would just be an individual contributor. They get disillusioned with management, or they're very headstrong and they are fine with the teeth kicking and they just keep going back. They feel fulfilled taking care of a team, having these people that they can take care of, that can take care of them. And like having those opportunities ahead of you is like, that's the fuel. Like that's what drives you. But if the perception is that those opportunities are like gone, or if the reality is that they literally aren't there, that these doors are being closed and sealed shut, then like Gen Z having that reputation for being disengaged and unmotivated, like you literally can't even blame them. No moat technology. Yeah, well, we have to make sure that they can't bastion themselves in. But at 19 years old, like when I was 19, I remember I was working in this fancy French restaurant, right? And I had like really big ideas about like how we could be more efficient, or like stuff we could do better, like the way that we could take care of customers. Like I wanted it. I wanted it so bad. And eventually, after I'd been there for a little while, the front of house manager quits, and I go to the GM and I tell him, like, I was like, man, like I really want it. Like, would you consider me? And he was honest with me. Me and him had a really good relationship. He told me he was like, dude, I believe you can do it. I just think you're too young. That's exactly what he said. We are still friends to this day. Looking back on things, that was probably a wise answer. In the car business, I was 22. I'd managed to work my way into the finance office, spinning bank loans. And I mean, you're sitting outside the glass, you see them in there, you hear things, and you have an idea that you could make things better. And I did the gambit play with the GM. I was hot, dude. I was killing it. I could sell cars. I left for a little bit. I came back. I kind of went on a sabbatical for a few weeks. I went to Texas and Seattle and then came back. He told me he didn't think I was coming back. And I told him, no, I needed to come back because I needed to ask you something. If I come back and I keep selling my tail off for you, are you going to give me a shot? Are you going to let me in the finance office? He told me it was a lot harder than it looked. He was right. But it was good of him to give me the opportunity and like find out for myself. And when he moved on from that store, I moved on from the car business. I went back to school. And these things changed the trajectory of my life. Like literally. That opportunity, the ability to like give that a shot, if that hadn't been available, I wouldn't have been the same person. I know I wouldn't have been the same person. I wasn't like super successful in those endeavors, but like I knew that I wanted more, and my reach always exceeded my grasp. Like it was the successes and failures that just had me to always keep reaching, and like I don't know, learning like that crushing defeat and like going back, doing it again, like being able to say like, you know what, I got knocked down, I'm gonna get back up again, and I'm just gonna keep doing it, and eventually this is gonna hit. Eventually, it's going to hit a jackpot sooner or later, and I had that in me to keep doing it, and I think I turned out all right. Like, I had some challenges or whatever, but like, I think I'd done pretty okay for myself. Family, kids, like house. I'm doing a lot better than some of these kids out here these days. And when you take those opportunities away, like there's a cultural nihilism, and it's not a mystery why. Like you kind of have to have a certain level of mental discipline and like really take pride in your work to be fulfilled with like what you're actually doing, and not just constantly trying to level up all the time. Like when you're young and you have the whole world at your feet, there's almost nothing worse than thinking that like this is really it. Like when you hear about these guys that are young and they hit, they become millionaires and they make it big at a young age, and they're like, like once I got the money, that's when the depression sets in. And like, then there's always like, people in their 30s and 40s that are like, well, dude, give me the money. Like, I could really freaking use it. That's so dumb. Why would you feel that way? But like, when you are a young person, it does kind of make sense. Like, if you're not 100% satisfied with everything about your life, then knowing like this is kind of all there is, like, that is kind of a little nihilistic. Like, when you beat the game and you're just playing that post game, like, it was kind of fun. Like, the game was great, and now it's over and I've unlocked everything, and all it does is kind of remind you how great the experience was as the story unfolds. Like, it's kind of depressing knowing that there's not going to be much left that gets added after that. Like I said, you need the maturity, and you need the faith that if you're going to be comfortable with the idea that what you have now is all you're going to get, and that you should be happy with it, because the only other option is that you can be upset, but it's not going to change anything. You know what I mean? Like, when you're 20, that's awful. Like, by the time you're like 30, 33, as long as things are pretty decent, you're like, dude, if I don't have another catastrophe, to be honest, like, I'm just kind of good. Like, if I don't have these things that go and completely blow up my life, like, if this is what I got, this is great. It's been going, let's keep it going. But like I said, I promised I have a solution, right? And I think that this is in favor of them, but you hear this all the time. Like, these starter jobs today, like, they don't pay shit. Like, they really don't. They don't. And like, they technically pay more than they used to, even compared to inflation. They pay more than they used to. And like, somebody's always like super happy to show up with a statistic. Well, actually, drive-through workers make more today than they did in the 70s. It's like, okay, like, that's awesome. But like, how much more? Like, marginally? Because houses went from like 3 times annual income to like 12 times annual income. So like, sure, like, technically I can buy more cheeseburgers with the money I make on my cheeseburger selling job. But like, cheeseburgers aren't the thing that's going to make me feel happy and secure in my life, like, as a cheeseburger guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, in so many ways, yeah, it technically outpaces inflation, but to like feel secure in your life, you kind of want to know that, in a couple of years, you're still going to live where you live right now. Like, that is the kind of thing that makes people say, I'm going to invest in my job, in my life, in my community. And if you don't have that, if you just feel like you're a transient that can get blown away by a financial crisis or a job loss, then of course you're going to feel a little nihilistic. Like, I look at the loan I have on my house. I feel like I got the last chopper out of Nam. Like, if you look at the friggin' market today with interest rates and housing prices, it's completely out of control. Where you look back and like, when I was in middle school, like a public school janitor, like that was actually like a decent job. Like, I'm not saying, there's always been a stigma to that kind of job, and I don't ascribe to that, but there is a stigma with, you're the school janitor. But at the same time, like, back then, like, that might not necessarily have been an income where you're going to provide for a whole family, but for like a single guy, like, you had a sort of financial flexibility. Like, you had vacation, you could afford not to be constantly working overtime. You could study Aristotle or play tennis with your buddies on the weekends. Like, it wasn't necessarily a dignified job, but it gave you a dignified life. Where like, anymore, this hustle culture thing just washes that away. Like, you're just a slave, basically. Yeah, exactly. You could afford a small house, like, on that salary. You could have a small home. Like, it wasn't a palace. Like, you might, if you had like 5 kids, you might really struggle to pay for things. But at the end of the day, like, you had somewhere to live. Like, you could carve out a place for yourself in the right area. That meant that there might have been public land that you could go and spend time on. You could go fishing out there. You could just have some crappy little boat that didn't require like special licensing and inspections. I'm not saying that this is all the best of everything, but I'm just saying, like, you had some dignity. Like, anymore, like, these minimum wage jobs, I'm sorry, like, they don't leave a lot of room for dignity. Jeez, even college students, they get out of school, they're making like 50, 60K a year, 65K for engineers is what they start at now. Are you crazy? Like, that's insane. What are you buying for 65K? Let's say you get out of college and 4 years later, you're like you're like a senior engineer or junior partner engineer, whatever. Like, now you make what, 80K a year, 100K a year? 100K a year, you are not paying for your wife to stay home and raise your kids. You're not. At 100K a year, you will struggle to buy a home in Virginia, in most markets, but in Virginia especially. The cost of living in Virginia sucks. I need to look up Tim Dillon's Lowe's employee speech. That actually sounds... I love Tim Dillon. Tom Dillon or Tim Dillon? Was that a typo, or is this a whole different Dillon that I don't know of? Okay, perfect. I love Tim Dillon. I'm looking it up right after I'm done with this. But no, so here's the fix, right? Okay, I know how to fix it. And again, this is a solution that's already been offered, right? Because the solution that keeps being offered is to raise the minimum wage. But the problem with this is that then you just raise the baseline. And when you raise the baseline, it doesn't actually give laborers any type of leverage. As soon as you raise the baseline, everybody can kind of see in your pockets a little bit, and you'll get fleeced by the same people who are already fleecing you already. As soon as you do it, the landlord, the power company, car insurance companies, medical bills, grocery store prices, everything just starts going up. As soon as you raise that minimum wage, they can see in your pockets. It doesn't do anything to give you more leverage as a consumer, as a person, not just a consumer, as a person. You need the leverage. So to ensure that those wages work to the maximum effect, that they can be wielded with the most leverage possible, I proposed the solution. That was the same solution Obama offered in 2008, and it's the same solution that Bernie Sanders offered in 2016. You need a complete and total moratorium on immigration. Absolute moratorium. No visas, no H-1Bs, and criminal charges for any manager, HR lady, or company executive that allows illegal labor. Illegal, exploitative labor, you get to go to prison. It's already a law. You don't need Congress to pass it. Nothing. It's already there. 5 years. If you told a CEO that he would go into a prison for 5 hours, they would lose their shit. So yeah, you go ahead, you enforce the law that it's already there, and you force these companies to negotiate with the labor that is already available. That's it. That is all you need. They have no options, no second chances, no outsources, no H-1Bs. You tell them you have to negotiate with the people who are already here, whoever they are. All of the financial models that are predicting runaway inflation and like $10,000 iPhones when you have deportations, when you have those wages start to go up, all of these models, they always assume the same thing. They assume that the administrative portions of these companies are only willing to accept the current profit shares that they currently receive. They assume that what they consider profit, that's like the bare minimum, that these companies have no wiggle room on that profit share, that they'll just shutter if they can't get it. But what you can do is look back at the 1970s and look at corporations, what they invested into payroll versus what they claimed as profit. And you look at in the 1970s, where this split, where this shift started to occur, because profits were like this and payroll expansion every year was like this. And now it goes the other way. Now profits are like this and payroll expansion, it's always been just kind of a hard year, Always seems like profits, they get bigger and bigger, 5%, 10% every year. We have to grow. We have to grow or we die. Payroll expansion, always like always a little like this every time. And really, it's upsetting. It's really upsetting. Yeah, exactly. But if you have the wall, at least it can't get ripped down by the next president. At least it's there. But anyway, they'll never let it happen. They'll never let it happen. The wall isn't even what you need. You just need to just go ahead and put cuffs on. Like you frog march. You'd only have to do it one time, I think. Like one sufficiently large company. It wouldn't have to even be a Fortune 500. You could just pick a mid-sized company employing illegal labor. Don't do a construction company either. Like pick something a little classier. Like, because these construction CEOs, they don't really look like CEOs because they wear the blue jeans and the beat-up shirts and drive, like, the $150,000 truck. No. You need to get a guy who actually, like, drives a Lexus or a Bentley or something. One of those guys. You see, they go into a nice, clean office, with the carpeted floors, and all of the ladies in purchasing are all like, oh, all the project managers are like, oh, my God. And they just see, like, you see first, like, comes the HR lady. Then next comes the manager, and then third one coming out the door, it's the CEO, and you're like, dude, what the heck? And it's like, yeah, did you know that this freaking razor blade factory was employing illegal immigrants? Yeah, they had a contract with Gillette. They were making razors, and they were using illegal labor to do it, and now they're going to prison. And you make that loud and clear. That message will be heard loud and clear, because every single CEO in the country will say, what do I do to make sure that it's not me? Like I said, even if it was just 5 hours, 5 days, that'd be enough. 5 days in prison, they'd be like, dude, yeah, F that. Nah, so if you do this, there is less competition in the retail marketplace. While your wages are going up, then companies are going to need to be more competitive to earn your business, whether the grocery store or the landlords. They will have less customers, which means that they will have to actually fight for your business. So go ahead, just replace all the executives, all the managers, just replace them with AI. But the profits go to us. And that's it. As simple as that. Not tech giants, us. If we do that, then finally Gen Z will have something to work for. Finally, they'll be able to look at what they're doing. They'll stop trying to level up, and they will say, this is awesome. That's my theory anyway. All right. Well, I went a little long, so guess I'm going to call it a night. I appreciate you, esteemed hams, for sticking around. Yeah, and that's the truth, man. It's going to be, what was that movie? The Matt Damon one with it was kind of weird. Elysium. Yeah. Where like all of the tradespeople, they're all like living on the ground and they all speak like Spanglish. And they're living on the crust of the earth. Everything's all dusty and gross. And then like he goes up to the satellite to try and get some kind of crazy cancer surgery for his daughter, I think. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin the movie. But yeah, it's just going to be, or like where you're going to have like, billionaires that literally live in satellites, and then the rest of us are going to be just like on the ground, like trading scrap metal for eggs. I have a broken motor. You think I can have like, a dozen eggs? They're going to be like, it's only 2 eggs now. They found a whole pile of Yeah, there we go. Battle Angel. I'll have to check that out. I heard about that one. Yeah, it's Friday night. What are you doing at home? We got to get out here. Bars, you make bars great again. No, actually, I'm kidding. I don't drink anymore. Does anybody even go to bars anymore? Like, I feel like every bar is an arcade now. Am I wrong? Like, if you go into a regular bar, are they doing regular stuff? Actually, that's not true. I went to eat a steak in Mississippi, and I can't remember the name. Scoots might have been I think the name was Scoots, but I heard that they had really good steak and it was kind of cheap. And I'm a cheap guy, I guess. And I show up and it's like a bar venue, and so I eat my steak. And the guy, like they try and charge me a cover. I was like, yo, I was just coming to eat. My bad. I'm at the wrong place. He's like, oh, Nah, you're good. And he just let me in. And so I go and I eat at the bar and I hear like all this music in the back. I ask the lady what's going on and she tells me it's a boot scoot. I was in Mississippi. I was 100 yards from the Mississippi State University football stadium and they were having a boot scoot. And when I tell you I saw a whole ton of white people square dancing to Lil Jon, Get Low. Square dancing to Get Low. And I took a video of it and I sent it to my wife and I said, don't ever tell me white people don't have culture ever again. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. I'm always here for you. Esteemed Hams is always here for me. Thanks.